behind me is the holy mountain of Arunachala. Now, Arunachala is one of the holiest mountains within India, if not the holiest. And some people refer to it as the Kailash of the south. And it is considered the manifestation of Shiva itself, which we will talk about in a little bit. But this mountain contains a lot of power. There's an intense energy around the mountain that draws a lot of people to its presence. And I've been coming here for over a decade, and it's one of the greatest places for sadhana, for dedicated, disciplined, lengthy spiritual practice. And I've been here many times for that specific reason. And I've wrote many books here. And it's one of my favorite places in the world. And it was a place that even drew the great Sri Ramana Maharshi to this mountain. And after Bhagavan's self-realization at 16 years of age, he was drawn to the mountain, and he never left the mountain ever again. It is believed that he never walked further than 3 kilometers from its base. And so Ramana basically lived on the mountain and at the foot of the mountain for his entire life after his self-realization. After a certain amount of time, an ashram was built around him, and it's one of the greatest ashrams in the world, in my opinion. And so it is a place that has been drawing yogis and sadhus for thousands of years. There's a lot of stories about yogis and sadhus who had come from the small town of Mahabalipuram on the coast, and in the summertime they would come to Arunachala and meditate in many caves on the mountain. And some of those caves I've meditated in personally myself, which contains a lot of great energy. And so since Ramana's time, people have been coming to Arunachala unknowingly because they come for Ramana, but they are embraced by the presence of this majestic mountain. And for those of you who don't know where Arunachala is, it's in the small South Indian town of Tiruvannamalai, one of my favorite places in the world, which is in Tamil Nadu. And the Tamil people are absolutely wonderful people. Some of the most grounded people that you'll ever meet, and sincere Shaivas. Now, a Shaiva is a worshipper of Shiva, of the one consciousness. Shiva is the ultimate reality, a representation of Brahman, the ultimate reality of existence. And so a lot of people who aren't from India are very skeptical about the power of this mountain. But I can guarantee you, once you come to Tiruvannamalai, you will feel the presence of Arunachala. And ironically, a lot of people in India actually don't know about this great mountain. And it's only recently that a lot of people from Andhra Pradesh have been coming to Arunachala to circumambulate the mountain, because every full moon people circumambulate Arunachala, because it is believed since ancient time that when we walk around the mountain and we keep our gaze on the mountain and we keep Shiva's name in our mind, or we recite it and we walk it in meditation, then this will dissolve our vasanas, our latent tendencies and habitual ways, which then will get rid of a lot of our present life karma, past life karma, and eventually future karma. And so a lot of people now within India are coming to the mountain, thankfully. And foreigners have been coming here for a long time because of Ramana Maharshi. And it is quite an experience to walk around the mountain, I can say that personally. Now you're probably asking, what is the story behind this mountain? Well, the story goes like this. Brahma, the creative principle of the world, or creator God if you will, and Vishnu, the sustainer or preserver of the world, or the principle or God of the world, were in conflict and were fighting for primacy in the divine hierarchy to see who was greater, right? And so in the story, they were fighting for that. They wanted to see who was more superior, either the creative principle or the preserver or sustaining principle of Vishnu. And so you have this battle between Brahma and Vishnu. And then to teach them a lesson, Shiva himself came into the story and took the form of a Tejo Lingam. Now, a Tejo Lingam is a column of fire or light, and this column of fire or light had no beginning or end, which is a representation of Shiva itself when you understand the Shaiva tradition, right? Because Brahman, the ultimate reality, which Shiva is a representation of, is the one consciousness which is not bound. It's eternal. It has no boundaries, no limitations. And so this Tejo Lingam has no top or bottom because it's beginningless, endless. And in the story, Shiva said to both Brahma and Vishnu, he said that whoever finds either the top or the bottom will be the supreme ultimate reality of existence. And so Vishnu took the form of a boar, and Vishnu began to dig into the earth to find the bottom of the Tejo Lingam, of this column of light, or fire, if you will. And Brahma took the form of a swan to fly to the top of the Tejo Lingam, of the column of light. And so they both went, off they went. And they were going for ages, right? Like trying to find the top, trying to find the bottom. And then they both sort of sensed that this lingam is beginningless and endless. Like they've been traveling for so long, and I can't find the end of this thing. And so they both traveled back to where the Tejo Lingam stood steady, and then they both surrendered and prayed to where the Tejo Lingam was steady. And so then Shiva revealed himself to be the Tejo Lingam, and so they both surrendered and prayed to Shiva to pardon them for their ignorance, for their stupidity of thinking that Shiva's ultimate nature could have any sort of boundary, because Shiva has no limitations. As I said, it's beginningless and endless. And so seeing both of them bent before him, Shiva cooled down and took the form of the holy mountain of Arunachala. And so this became a place for Brahma and Vishnu to worship. And so this becomes a place for rituals and meditation to happen. And so for ritualistic purpose, Shiva became the Swayambhu Lingam, which means self-born. And this is enshrined in the Arunachala Shivara temple, the main temple in town, in the Sanctum Sanctorium, in the heart of the temple. And the Arunachala Shivara temple has a great energy when you are inside the temple and you go into the Sanctum Sanctorium. It's a immense energy when you go in and you are near this lingam. And so that's the story behind Arunachala itself, and also the Arunachala Shivara temple. And you're probably asking what Arunachala means. So Aruna means red, bright like fire. And so every Kartikai Deepam, which falls between mid-November and mid-December, on top of Arunachala, they actually light a fire. And it's a very auspicious day. I've been here for a few Kartikai Deepams. And again, this relates to one of the core tenets in Shaivism, which is the complete dissolution of the ego, which I'll get into a minute in relation to Arunachala being a representation of the Atman, the undifferentiated consciousness. But Aruna is not some sort of ordinary fire. It's actually the Jnana Agni, which means the fire of knowledge, or the fire of wisdom. And this is the knowledge or wisdom that Atman is Brahman. So we are identical with Shiva itself. There is no separation between us and the ultimate reality. And so the other part of Arunachala, Achala, means hill of wisdom, the hill that is a living embodiment of Brahman, of Shiva, of Atman, which is within all of us. It's a representation of that, and Hindus believe it's an actual manifestation, representation of that. It's the ultimate lingam. It's not just a Shiva lingam you find in a temple, it's a natural lingam. So Arunachala is the physical embodiment of the Atman. And even deeper than that, it's the physical embodiment of Sat, of existence itself, which is identical with Nirguna Brahman, which is Brahman without qualities. That's the ultimate nature of reality. Saguna Brahman is Brahman with qualities, the world that we live in. It's the world of Shakti, where we are a manifestation of the personal God, but Nirguna Brahman is the impersonal ultimate reality. And so Saguna is that personal Shakti power of the manifest world. And so it's what we can see, what we can feel. It is with qualities. But Nirguna is the ultimate substratum of existence. And that's what Arunachala is a physical embodiment of. That's why Ramana said it's the spiritual heart of the world, because it is the physical representation of Atman, which is Brahman, which is within all of us. And that's why when we come here, there's a energy that one feels. And in some sense, a lot of people believe we are drawn here by its magnetism. But it's a secret place in the world that is only for those who are ready for that deeper realization. And it's interesting because when a lot of sadhus come to this mountain, they surrender their entire life to Arunachala. And they live on the famous Pradakshina road, or Giri Vilam in Tamil, which goes around ARUNACHALA, which you circumambulate on a full moon Deepam, and they've surrendered their whole life to ARUNACHALA. They've given everything away, just as Ramana did when he came here. When Ramana came here, he threw all of his clothes and his money into the Tirtham in Arunachaleshwara temple. A Tirtham is sort of a sacred bath. So he threw all of his clothes and his money in there, and he just resided in the Arunachaleshwara temple. He put a loincloth on, and that's it. That was the end of days for Venkataraman Iyer, which was his name of birth. And he eventually was named Ramana Maharshi by another Swami. And so Arunachala is, as I said, that physical embodiment of the Atman. And they say to have contact with the mountain is to be in satsang with the mountain, or to be in satsang with Shiva itself. And so that's what a lot of people do here in Tiruvannamalai. They come here and they just look at the mountain. I do this a lot, just calmly just observe the mountain, and it really does feel in some sense like you are getting darshan, you are getting some sort of blessing from the mountain. I know that may sound new agey, but a lot of people do come here and feel this sort of blessing that they get, not just from going to Ramana Ashram, but just from being around the mountain. And it just, the place contains a lot of sattvic energy, because a lot of people are focused on a deeper exploration of the ultimate reality, as opposed to being caught up in their mind. They're allowing their mind to be absorbed into the Atman, where all of the content of your mind begins to disappear. And so if you're interested in coming here and you're interested in emulating the life of Ramana Maharshi, or the millions of yogis and sadhus who have came before him, who have been coming to this mountain for thousands of years, then Ramana said that when we circumambulate the mountain, we need to do it in muna, in silence, in jhana, in meditation, and we also need to practice japa. We need to recite the name of Shiva as we walk around. So we need to have those three things when we practice pradakshina, when we go around the mountain. And so I see people a lot when they walk around the mountain, they are really sincere about that, and they are actually practicing those three tenets of muna, of jhana, and japa. And one last element that Ramana recommended was we should always gaze at the mountain when we're walking around the mountain. And so that's basically the crux of what the holy mountain of Arunachala is. The story, how it has drawn people here for years, and also how we should practice pradakshina when we come here. Now, as I said, it is entirely up to you to see if what I'm saying is actually true. Is there actually a sort of a presence here that is different to other places in the world? Now, I can only say from my own personal experience, as I've already mentioned, but I highly recommend anyone to come here, because it's one of the greatest places for sadhana anyway, even if you don't believe in the whole story that this is a physical representation of Shiva, or it's some sort of energy point in the world that has a magnetism that draws people here. But I would say reserve your judgment and come here for yourself. And don't just come for a couple of weeks, come for a couple of months and dive deeply into sadhana. Visit Ramana Ashram every day. Visit some of the other great ashrams, like Yogi Ram Surat Kumar. He's one of the great sages of modern times. And just embrace yourself along Pradakshina Road with all the sadhus and yogis that have surrendered to the mountain. And just embrace the whole place. Embrace the whole place. Surrender to the place and see how that will transform your life. And see if the same person who came to practice sadhana at the holy mountain of Arunachala is the same person who leaves the holy mountain of Arunachala. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.